Daxton Grubb, good to be with you. 47-year lab, second generation, family owned, full service lab. I'm sure you've got a lot of knowledge and insight and wisdom to share, but wanted to dive into the Inspire HS line at R-Dent. You guys have been making this beautiful zirconia crown here, Inspire HS, for the last 10 years with some great results, but recently you've given it an upgrade with the Inspire HS Nano. Just wanted to talk about this, why you made the upgrade, what you're loving about it, and how this upgrade benefits your doctors, and why you made this choice.
Yeah, Rob. So, like you said, we made a decision about 10 years ago to create this new line, the Inspire line, and we have a HS line and also a UT. The HS stands for high strength, and UTs are ultra translucent. And the idea with this is we wanted to create our own brand that if we ever just saw a better zirconia out there, we would just, be able to change the zirconia and not basically make the announcement. And, the thing I would say about this is not common. Something that we would do is normally be talking about zirconia. And the reason is honestly, up until this zirconia, I will say we've just seen very little differentiation of the different zirconias that we've changed. We probably used, I would say, maybe 5 different zirconias over the past 15 years. And anytime we change, usually we'll do, because it's a little bit more translucent, or, supposedly it's a little stronger, or it may be a better vendor for us to partner with. But ultimately, there's really not much that a doctor would ever notice. And a lot of times it's really not much that our technicians here would even notice. But this move here has definitely been, a different, we've got some really good benefits to us in the lab, and most importantly to the clinician and the doctor, that I think is definitely worth noting and sharing. And we have not seen any other zirconia out there that's like the nano zirconia for sure.
Well, that's awesome news, and let's dive in. These 3 value points here that you've outlined that really do benefit the clinician. Fits first time, protects natural teeth, and true to shade. Just give us high level, like what does this mean to the dentist clients that you guys are serving?
Well, like I said, I think with this zirconia, it's not just a different brand zirconia, and one that we're just saying is stronger. It's the different properties, the nano nature of the zirconia, which we'll go over. It allows us as a lab to do some things that we just ultimately can't do with any other zirconia. The fits first time, that one in particular. We're doing more digital crowns than ever, more modelless crowns of those digital crowns than ever. And before the nano, any other zirconia we use, we're adding materials to that process, which it makes it harder for us to control those variables. Doctors' preferences with seating, which obviously contacts and occlusion is a big one for us. So this that we'll go over today gives us a benefit there that we really can't do with any zirconia. Also, the same thing with that nano nature. We're going to hit on just how this particular zirconia and how we're finishing it protects the natural teeth. It wears better than anything that we can fabricate in the lab, which is a big point, because that has been a concern with just the zirconia nature, like how aggressive it can be to the opposing. And then lastly, which is probably, in the lab, year over year is probably the biggest struggle that, we deal with, is just shade consistency. And of course, there's so many variables that go into that. Some we can control and some we can't. But again, this nano nature that we're going to go over, it allows us to have a more uniform shade consistency throughout the crown, which I think is a tremendous benefit to the lab, but most importantly to the doctor and the patient for sure.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, good results for the doctors, and also good results for the patients, and crowns are going to last a really, really long time. Let's talk about this fits first time. Traditional zirconias, they have binders in them that are used in the manufacturing process, which is normal and totally acceptable. But the nano zirconia is binderless, and so the shrinkage is less and the accuracy of milling is less. And really what this means is, with the design file that you design and mill is going to be really, really accurate to how it's going to fit the scan, and then how it's going to fit in the mouth. Maybe talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so again, with this nano nature zirconia, it's probably the biggest benefit that we see is is not having to stain and glaze these restorations. And when we're adding glaze to the product, we're adding more material. And those processes are manually done to this point. Eventually we'll have machines or robots that are possibly doing stain and glaze, but now that's all still done by hand. Those are technicians with porcelain brushes that are applying that. So in a lab like mine, where we have 3 stain and glazers full time, even though we've trained them together, there definitely is some inconsistencies there. So by us eliminating the need to glaze those restorations and polishing them, we're not adding any material. So we're relying more heavily on the design preference parameters, which is really ultimately what we all want, right? We can control 100%. That better than we can, the glaze thicknesses of the stain and glaze process. So as I said, on processes like a modelless workflow where we don't, all we have to rely on is the design, right? We're not printing a model to check. I think that becomes even more beneficial, if you will, of having a polished only restoration. Once we get those doctor settings in there, then I don't have to worry if my stain and glazer A, stain and glazer B, or stain and glazer C was working on that case. We're going to have a much greater chance at nailing those contacts and occlusion.
It's a really, really good point to highlight here that the average thickness of glaze is about 30 to 50 microns per layer, depending on the type of glaze or the technician applying the glaze. And in a model-free workflow, you're dialing in your SOPs to make sure that layer of glaze is consistent because there's no model. But when you're designing in the CAD software, you can measure things down to the micron level. And so if you're designing, milling, and polishing, and you're not glazing, the geometric accuracy of what you designed is going to be spot on, and you don't have any, analog process, which is glaze, and a technician adding a level of thickness that might throw off a contact and might require a contact adjustment to get it to seat.
Yeah. So, I think that's really the key. I tell doctors all the time, now that, CAD CAM and, printing and milling has become such a big force in our industry, I tell doctors really, and AI as well, the goal is to try to get as many of those processes that are in that digital workflow, right, and that stay on it as long as possible.
Yes.
Because we know that we have, just like with AI, we have a lot more predictability there. So I think this, with the most popular product in the lab today, full contour zirconia, this gives us an opportunity to be able to do that in a way that we've never been able to do it before. And another thing I just want to hit on this too is, I know some doctors may be thinking, well, hey, we can polish any zirconia. And yes, that is true. Technically you can polish other zirconia. We've tried it. I will tell you, it's almost like the reject rate was almost 100%, because they aesthetically, they just looked really, really bad. They didn't look that, and I guess it's the binders and the fillers and the zirconia that wouldn't allow it to have the aesthetics that it would need. But this nano zirconia really looks like it's been glazed, but it's been yet polished.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. And we're going to get to polishing next when we talk about protect natural teeth. But to wrap up this first one, this idea that you're polishing is an obvious one. It's been around for a long time, but the aesthetics haven't been there. But now the aesthetics are there, and the beauty of this fits first time is that we don't have glaze, we just have a polished surface, so it's really kind to the opposing, but it's accurate, right? It's accurate to the design file, and that's really the key point, especially in a model-free workflow, this geometric accuracy, so this seating appointment is going to be absolutely flawless. So let's talk a little bit more about polishing, the benefits of polishing. There's actually a lot of literature on this. It's been around for a long time that polished zirconia is really good for tissue, and it's really good for the opposing dentition. In fact, there's many journal articles, Dax and I can send them to you, that talk about how the glazed surface has more abrasion to it than a polished zirconia surface. And so the kindest to the opposing surface is a polished zirconia surface. So maybe talk a little bit more about that and how awesome that is.
Yeah, I think like you said, this is definitely one of those areas that there's plenty of studies, as you said. I know, many years ago, I think it was the clinician's report even commented on this too.
Yeah.
But again, I think the problem with labs was we were limited by the materials, right? We all like came back and want to start polishing zirconia, but we're like, oh man, this is, this is great. It wears better, but a doctor's not going to see it from the aesthetic. So, and I think when you think about also like stain and glaze, that glaze material, it does wear off over time as well. So then you've also got that of a concern that once that glaze wears off, now you're really talking about the unpolished zirconia surface that's underneath it. Now we've really got a problem at that point. So it's really the glaze, but it's also once that glaze wears off of what we're working with.
Yeah, and we can see some of this data here on 5-year chewing simulation studies and how the nano performs, and it's the least abrasive to the opposing, which is awesome. So it's going to fit really, really well, and it's going to protect the natural teeth really, really well. So an awesome clinical benefit there. And then the true to shade. So this multi-layer blend, this binderless composition has this blended gradient from cervical to incisal. Maybe talk a little bit more about this and how you're getting great aesthetics out of the mill, and then you're polishing, and then shade consistency has been really impacted by the nano.
Sure. So I'll say this, like pretty much every zirconia that we've worked with so far, some shades are obviously easier than others for the manufacturers to hit those from a pre-shaded puck. But I'll tell you, kind of generally speaking, it seems like it's the C's and the D's with any zirconia that we worked with that tend to be the ones that we struggle with, or manufacturers struggle with on being able to dial that recipe in and give us something that's out of the centering oven, that we could just glaze and go out the door. So. And this is, again, another limitation of why you're not able to just polish other zirconias, because we're having to, at the stain and glaze bench, add some color to those shades to be able to hit the shade tab. So again, it's a labor intensive. It's a human that's using the porcelain brush, stain and glaze. The stains to achieve that shade, and then we're glazing over it. So by having that shade consistency right out of the centering oven, which is what nano gives us that we've not had from all shades, that gives us that ability to go straight to a polish and out the door. So, and as I said earlier, there's every single year, this is hands down the biggest challenge that we have is just shade as a whole. And like I said, there's so many variables that come into that, from lighting in an office, the clinician or the assistant's ability to capture the correct shade there, and then obviously on the lab's ability to do the same here. But if we're not working with materials that are working with us, then obviously we're at a disadvantage there. And I say this with everything that we're doing in the lab now. We're, as a lab, we're having to keep making decisions to products and systems that are easier for us, right? If they're easier for us, we can control costs better. We can also get turnaround times, reduced, which has been something in our industry I think has become a bigger and bigger key point with the emergence of DSOs and all that. They want these crowns back quicker than ever, right? And because of everything that we've shared here with the nano, this has opened up a new opportunity for us with the 24-hour crown. So it's something that we couldn't do before if we tried. But because of all the advantages on the manufacturing side that it gives us, we're able to offer a 24-hour crown, and then our normal modelless crown is 3 days as well. So we're talking super, super quick turnaround times across the board. But a lot of this we've been able to do because of this zirconia itself.
Wow, so your standard turnaround time for the Inspire HS Nano is 3 days, and you even have a 24-hour turn if someone's going on a cruise tomorrow and they need to get a crown in.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, that is super awesome.
Yeah, it's we'd rather, as we say, we'd rather that the crowns be sitting on the doctor's shelf than sitting on ours, right? I think that's kind of the goal. So if a temporary pops off, it's great when an office calls you and says, hey, I had a patient temporary pop off and the crown was already back, after 2 or 3 days, and we look good, they look good to the patient, and they save a whole appointment right there.
Yeah, I remember you telling me doctors are calling in saying, hey, want to call and check on the status of my case because I had a question. And you're like, it's been in your office for 2 days already.
Yeah, I will say it is just because it is something to talk about. You know, the crowns are moving so fast through the lab that we have offices, if they don't give us all the information or if they want to change something after a day, I mean, it's been pretty common that they'll call a day or day and a half later and we're like, hey, this thing's already ready to go out the door. And they're like, what? So it's been a whole, change and from the doctor's side and our side, just with things like that on communication. It's like, well, if you want to change, information, you got to get back to us pretty quick. So, but that's been, it's kind of fun. It's fun to have that to kick back to the doctors and be like, hey, we're not sitting around over here, we're moving. So, but the product's really enabled us to do it for sure.
Hey man, early is on time. Yep. Early is on time. I love it. And so, how do doctors reach out to you? I remember you told me a couple minutes ago about your text line. So doctors can just text you, get connected, or of course call or email, get connected with RDent.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're here many different ways. We've got field sales reps. We've got website listed here. You can call us on our main line, email. The text line has been, as we were talking earlier, it's been something that we rolled out about 6 months ago. And it has changed the way that our offices communicate with us. I've got several staff members that are checking that all day long. And so it's really good because it gives them record of the communications where normally if they call, they don't have record of it or we do. So things like checking on a case, changing any information on a case, it's been really efficient because those staff members are able to text us from their computer while they're maybe checking out patients. So it's really has been yet another way I think that we've given doctors tools to be able to be more efficient on their end as well.
So don't text Daxton, text the text line here.
Yeah, because then I'm going to forward it on to them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome, Daxton. Any other final comments about the Inspire HS Nano and just what it means for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, obviously this has been, a wonderful product that we've taken on from you guys, and we've been thrilled with this move. It is definitely a premium zirconia. I tell doctors out there, I mean, it's, there's no beating around the bush. This is a true premium zirconia, and we're very proud that we've rolled out this huge upgrade from a material standpoint and final product to our doctors at no additional charge. And so that's something that I'm very proud to stand here today and feel good about giving our doctors and our patients a true upgrade to what we had before, and nothing's going to change on their end, right? It's not very often that you get these things. It feels like, all right, what's the catch? And you got a higher price. Yeah. And so we're really just kind of giving this as a thanks back to our customers and something that they know by working with us, you truly are getting the best product in your full contour zirconia that's out there today. And this is it for sure.
So they're getting an aesthetic upgrade, a fit upgrade, a time upgrade, and all these restorations made in the USA at R-Dent, and the zirconia itself is made in the USA for those patriotic people out there. This is through and through a proudly made in the USA product.
Yep, for sure.
Awesome, Daxton. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
good chatting.
Rob. Enjoyed it.